Tonight, it's off to the races for the first full day of the federal election campaign, what the leaders are saying. Plus, a $10 a day childcare space coming to the Peace region. We'll tell you where. And the incident that forced a WestJet flight from Vancouver to Fort St. John to be delayed. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with the first full day of campaigning ahead of a federal election now scheduled for April 28. While dealing with Donald Trump may be the defining issue, leaders brought the focus back to affordability today. CTV's Michael Couture kicks off our coverage.
Right out of the gate, proposed tax cuts by the Liberals and Conservatives. At a cardboard factory in Brampton, Pierre Poilievre said he'd cut the lowest income tax rate. And to pay for it, he's eyeing government savings.
We will be cutting bureaucracy, cutting consultants, cutting back on handouts to insiders, and we will cut back on foreign aid to bring our money home to this country.
Liberals are also proposing a tax cut for people who earn just under $58,000 a year. Now, Conservatives claim their plan would save a two-income family $1,800 annually. The Liberal cut is smaller and would see that same family save $825 a year. But Carney claims the Conservative plan will mean program cuts.
He said, and now he's backed it up with initiative, that he will eliminate, not just cut, eliminate childcare, eliminate dental care, eliminate pharmacare. He still doesn't have enough to pay. He's going to eliminate foreign aid.
Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet isn't proposing any tax cuts, but he is questioning how both the Liberals and Conservatives intend to fund their proposals.
I don't have to compete with that, but let me say something. How the hell do you intend to do that?
People are also dealing with a very serious housing crisis.
Affordability was also the focus of the NDP leader in Montreal. On a plot of land Jagmeet Singh visited 4 years ago during the 2021 campaign, he vowed to use federal land to build more than 100,000 rent-controlled homes over the next decade.
Our plan is to use every bit of federal land that's usable to build homes that are 100% affordable.
Expect affordability to be a central issue of this election. While the threat of U.S. tariffs is a concern to many, the possible recession that could come from a trade war is an even bigger concern for others. Mike Couture, CTV News, Mississauga, Ontario.
Keeping with the federal election, candidates running for the riding of Prince George, Prince River, Peace River, and Northern Rockies have been announced. Incumbent MP Bob Zimmer will run for re-election with the Conservative Party. Zimmer saying on social media, quote, "There has never been a more important election for Canada's future than this one," as volunteers set up lawn signs, while the People's Party of Canada have put up Bear Lake postmaster and reservist David Watson. On the ballot for the Green Party will be Mary Forbes, promising affordability, housing, and climate action. Both NDP and Liberal candidates have yet to be officially named. We'll have more on the looming impact of the election later on in our newscast. And changing gears now, a WestJet flight headed to Fort St. John to Vancouver had to be delayed following an incident involving a passenger. It happened on March 16 at the Vancouver International Airport. The airline confirming the passenger was escorted off the plane by RCMP prior to takeoff. The man pictured refusing to present their boarding pass or ID. The flight, originally scheduled to take off at 9 a.m., was delayed for over 2 hours because of the incident. Passengers say a head count manifest showed an extra passenger on board and that there was a language barrier between the man and the flight crew. The flight had to deboard during the incident, however, was able to take off by 11 a.m. We reached out to Richmond RCMP for comment, but did not receive a reply in time for broadcast. A daycare in Charlie Lake will receive funding to support the federal government's initiative of $10 a day childcare. Over $62 million is being invested to create new licensed childcare spaces across the province, including the addition of 8 spaces at Little Critters Daycare. That daycare is located on Hilltop Road and will onboard based on its existing wait list as children leave to enter kindergarten. It will be among 770 spaces being introduced across the province between March and April. The initiative aims to reduce childcare costs dramatically, saving families up to $950 per month. Since 2018, nearly $8 billion in funding through Childcare BC has resulted in over 40,000 new childcare spaces opening, more than 16,000 of them being $10 a day spaces. The province is aiming to achieve 20,000 by March 2025. The Saulteaux First Nations will be among those benefiting from provincial funding to expand development in the clean energy sector. The band is receiving $150,000 in equity funding to install residential solar panel systems. The initiative is part of a broader provincial effort in British Columbia to support clean energy projects in 12 First Nations communities. A total of approximately $1.49 million will be allocated for the projects, aimed to reduce energy costs, lower emissions, and provide sustainable energy options, aligning with the Clean BC plan. Since 2011, the First Nations Clean Energy Business Fund has supported over 150 First Nations with more than $21 million in funding. And Canada is ramping up support for the agriculture sector as it faces tariffs imposed by China. The federal government says it's doubling the payment cap under its Agri-Stability Program to $6 million for 2025. The program works similar to crop insurance. Ottawa is also increasing the compensation rate from 80 to 90%. China has imposed 100% tariffs on Canadian canola and peas, as well as a 25% levy on pork and some seafood. The tariffs are in retaliation for Canadian levies on Chinese-made electric vehicles, steel, and aluminum. And turning back to our top story now, the election campaign is happening under the long shadow of Donald Trump's threats and taunts. We wanted to take a closer look. CTV's Abigail Beeman now on the Trump factor.
Canada was meant to be the 51st state.
Canada caught in the crosshairs of U.S. President Donald Trump's ire.
Canada's absolutely one of the worst.
A trade war already in full swing, with Trump threatening new punishing global tariffs April 2nd. The impact for Canada is not clear. The next round may be more targeted, reciprocal tariffs still looming, but a White House official tells CTV News a final decision on industry-specific threats has not yet been made. Trump calls April 2nd Liberation Day. Otherwise, it would have just been known as Wednesday in week 2 of Canada's election campaign.
Canadians are transfixed on Donald Trump and relations with the United States. That's the top unprompted national issue of concern.
Campaigns are all about parties trying to control the message, but pollster Nick Nano says this time it's Trump in the driver's seat. Each day, leaders will be forced to respond to the latest White House talk, and the stakes are very high.
If you mess up on a response to Donald Trump or what you think he's just said, it could be completely devastating for a federal party leader.
And I'm ready to sit down with President Trump at the appropriate time under a position where there's respect for Canadian sovereignty.
Leaders have already been pitching themselves as the best option to deal with the American president.
In the fight with Donald Trump, I want you to ask yourselves, who do you think is going to actually put your family first? Who's going to put working people first? It's not going to be Pierre Poilievre. It's certainly not going to be Mark Carney. It's going to be us.
I'm a strong leader. I'm a tough guy to deal with. I'm firm in my convictions, and I'll always put Canada first.
This political psychologist says voters will be looking for two things: who can manage the next few years with the White House better, and who has better solutions to problems.
We've seen, fear over tariffs, fear over becoming 51st state, fear over, do we have to suddenly pop on Kevlar vests and go to war? Suddenly there's an increase in nationalism.
How that new nationalism plays out in the polls will be interesting to watch, while finding solutions to an unpredictable U.S. president remains no easy task.
In the race to become the next Prime Minister of Canada, each of the major party leaders are trying to establish themselves as the best candidate to defend Canadian sovereignty. Here's CTV's Judy Trinh with a look at their strategy.
Right out of the gate, proposed tax cuts by the Liberals and Conservatives. At a cardboard factory in Brampton, Pierre Poilievre said he'd cut the lowest income tax rate. And to pay for it, he's eyeing government savings.
We will be cutting bureaucracy, cutting consultants, cutting back on handouts to insiders, and we will cut back on foreign aid to bring our money home to this country.
Liberals are also proposing a tax cut for people who earn just under $58,000 a year. Now, Conservatives claim their plan would save a two-income family $1,800 annually. The Liberal cut is smaller and would see that same family save $825 a year. But Carney claims the Conservative plan will mean program cuts.
He said, and now he's backed it up with initiative, that he will eliminate, not just cut, eliminate childcare, eliminate dental care, eliminate pharmacare. He still doesn't have enough to pay. He's going to eliminate foreign aid.
Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet isn't proposing any tax cuts, but he is questioning how both the Liberals and Conservatives intend to fund their proposals.
I don't have to compete with that, but let me say something. How the hell do you intend to do that?
People are also dealing with a very serious housing crisis.
Affordability was also the focus of the NDP leader in Montreal. On a plot of land Jagmeet Singh visited 4 years ago during the 2021 campaign, he vowed to use federal land to build more than 100,000 rent-controlled homes over the next decade.
Our plan is to use every bit of federal land that's usable to build homes that are 100% affordable.
Expect affordability to be a central issue of this election. While the threat of U.S. tariffs is a concern to many, the possible recession that could come from a trade war is an even bigger concern for others. Mike Lecouture, CTV News, Mississauga, Ontario.
Ottawa has updated its travel warning for Canadians visiting the U.S. and China due to growing tensions. The federal government is now warning Canadians about the new guidelines in the U.S. Anyone staying longer than 30 days in that country must be registered with the United States government. Failure to do so could result in, quote, penalties, fines, and misdemeanor prosecution. Meantime, Canadians traveling to China are warned to, quote, exercise a high degree of caution. People with dual citizenship are advised to use Canadian credentials with Chinese authorities. Liquidation sales for Canada's oldest company begin today, and there may be a generational divide when it comes to whether people are going to miss the Bay when it's gone.
Usually I just use it to get into the mall, so we don't really shop in there. At least I don't.
Yeah, not in a long time.
I guess because it's been around for so long, we've been around for a while too, so we liked it.
The Bay is set to liquidate all but 6 of its stores across the country, and all those spared stores are in eastern Canada. The company didn't say how deep the discounts will be during the liquidation, but one expert tells CTV News it's unlikely the deals will blow shoppers away to start, as the company still owes creditors a lot of money. The liquidation of the Hudson's Bay Company is set to run until June 15. 23andMe is filing for bankruptcy, and its CEO has resigned. Once valued at $6 billion, the genetic testing company filed for Chapter 11 protection in federal court last night. The company was founded in 2006 to provide at-home DNA testing kits, but it struggled to generate recurring revenue and was dogged by privacy concerns around their genetic database. The company says the bankruptcy will not impact the way that it stores or protects customer data, and it will continue operating business as usual. Pope Francis has been prescribed 2 months of rest at the Vatican after being discharged from a lengthy hospital stay. The pontiff made his first public appearance in more than 5 weeks on Sunday, waving from the balcony at Rome's Gelemi Hospital ahead of being released. The 88-year-old has been in hospital since mid-February, battling pneumonia. The Pope's doctors say it will still take time for Francis to fully heal, and he will continue resting at the Vatican. U.S. negotiators met with Russian officials in Saudi Arabia's capital today to discuss a proposed partial ceasefire in Moscow's war in Ukraine. Moscow and Kyiv agreed to the truce in principle last week, but both sides have continued to attack each other with drones and missiles. A major sticking point is what targets would be off limits during the ceasefire. The United States said energy and infrastructure would be covered, but the Kremlin says the agreement refers more narrowly to energy infrastructure. Ukraine has said it would like to see infrastructure like railways and ports protected. The Americans held separate talks from a team with Kyiv yesterday. And we'll be right back with weather, but first, here's a look at the closing market numbers for today.